Hope you're having a pretty good day today. I know I am. I'm here. Glad to be with you guys. I have a few announcements I want to share with you. First, I want to apologize. We had a little bit of a glitch getting the first two lectures of this series onto Vince's Corner on the website. But we solved the problem this morning and they're both up there, so you can check them out if you want to. And hopefully, this lecture we're doing today will be on the website by Friday. I also want to mention that on November the 8th, we're going to do an anniversary celebration for Starting Point. Normally, every year we have a breakfast to celebrate it, but this year we're going to do something different. Okay, real different. We're going to have on November 8th, 10 o'clock in the morning, it's a Sunday, on Zoom, we're going to have a kind of a town hall. Loretta's going to interview me and then take questions from everybody that's on Zoom with us. And so it's like a town hall type thing. And I guess I'm the one going to be answering all the questions. Well, I'll try to anyway. We'll see what happens. So we're just going to do something different about Starting Point's anniversary. And we have some photographs and things of the original building and different types of things to show you too, which is pretty neat. So anyway, we're glad to be here, our 43rd anniversary. I also want to mention that Marie Allwell, one of our therapists, is doing a workshop this Sunday at 1 o'clock called Aging with Grace. Information about the website, about the program, can be found on our website. Just scroll down, and it's called Aging with Grace, and it's this Sunday from 1 to 3. So you can check that out if you want to. Okay? And I also just want to mention that my book, Relationships, the Gifts of Life, is here at Starting Point. If anybody's interested in it, it runs around $10. That includes postage. And you can check that out, by calling the front desk here at Starting Point. Okay? I think that's enough commercials for today. Oh, I forgot. We have a virtual basket. And so if you're interested, you can check that out in the chat room. Also, information about the anniversary celebration will be on our email mailing list. If you're not on our email mailing list, put your email in the chat room, or Loretta's email is down there. You can privately email it to her. Okay, so we try to get information out through that. Okay, all right. I'm going to begin by doing the reading today, and I picked another reading from the Woman's Meditation book, Each Day a New Beginning, and it's my favorite reading. It's from August the 3rd. All that is necessary to make this world a better place to live in is to love. To love as Christ loved, and to love as Buddha loved. To be unconditionally loved is our birthright, and we are so loved by God. There is just such a love from one another, and we deserve it. Yet it's a human quality to look for love before giving it. Thus, many of us search intently for signs of love. Too many of us are searching rather than loving. Truly loving another means letting go of all expectations. It means full acceptance, even celebration of another's personhood. Not easy, but so rewarding, to ourselves as well as to the one who is the focus of our love. Love is a balm that heals. Loving lightens our burdens, whatever they are. It invites our inner joy to emerge. But most of all, it connects us one to each other. Loneliness leaves. We're no longer alienated from our environment. Love is the mortar that holds the human structure together. Without the expression of love, it crumbles. This recovery program has offered us a plan for loving others as well as ourselves. Love will come to us just as surely as we share it. Each and every expression of love I offer today will make smooth another step I take in my life. I wanted to kind of read that and share that with you because today we're going to concentrate on how to develop healthy relationships with others. And one of the things I like to talk about when I give it this talk is go back to the one I did last week. If we truly do take the time to look within our own self and work on ourselves, then we'll start to discover the most powerful energy inside of every human being. It's the energy given to us by God. It is the gift of love. Unfortunately, in our society, we have taken that word We've kind of dirtied it. And unfortunately, in our society, we have all different concepts of this. But really, in reality, the real concept of love is to be able to share the energy of ourselves with others, but to share them in a very powerful way. It's called an interconnection. And I found it interesting that the definition of intercourse is interconnection. It really has nothing to do with sex at all. And so the concept is, as human beings, we need an interconnection to one another. And I've learned over the years, and one of the reasons I'm grateful to our recovery program, that they begin with the word we, that we basically are not islands and we can't live in isolation. We need to be connected to each other. You know, we've gone through a lot this year. And I think what scares a lot of people is we have a tendency to go into isolation. But thank God for things like Zoom, and thank God for the things that we have, that we can get out of our isolation, we can connect with each other. And I find it extremely important, even now, in the environment that we're in, that we actually take the time to really connect with each other and be part of one another. Be careful not to fall into that thing of getting angry and falling back and basically also doing crazy things. And so life is about giving this energy of love and sharing it. Some of the great examples of this, when you come right down to it, are people like St. Francis of Assisi, who was called the ultimate lover, the gentle man. You know, people like Dr. Martin Luther King, Gandhi. So many of the great people over the years have literally been able to touch other human beings through the power of love. Unfortunately, very many times in our society, when people like these come around, people get upset at them sometimes because it goes right against, very many times, some of the elements of greed and the elements of lust and the elements of the crazy things in our society. And one of the biggest mistakes we make when it comes to relationships is to realize the fact that all of us are part of many types of relationships. And so truly to be able to interact with other people and connect with other people is to experience the gift of love. And I'll begin by sharing a story with you, and I love sharing it. You know, I didn't at first, but now I do. Back in 1976, 77, when I was studying to get my master's degree in counseling, I literally did my internship and my training while I was at LaSalle University then as a priest at a treatment center in Philly called DRC. One of my great teachers, and I have a lot of feelings for him today, beautiful man who taught me what love really was all about. His name was Jack R. He was my supervisor, and I was a young priest, and of course I didn't know a lot. And I arrived, and yet, if you know much about DRC back then, it was a rehab primarily for street people. And so Jack, when I walked in, I was excited because I'm going to do an internship in counseling. I said, "What do you want me to do first?" And Jack said, "Well, I'll tell you what, Vince," he said, "go downstairs into the men's quarters. When they bring the men in off the street, I would like you to help give them baths, and I would like you to help clean them and delouse them so that we can begin to work with them." And as a young kid, I just kind of looked at Jack and said, "What?" He said, "Yeah." I said, what do you mean?" He said, "It's a great place to learn humility and a great place to really do an act of love." And Jack was all about acts of love. He was all about the simplicity. He was all about sharing the gift of himself with others. And I'll be honest with you, in the beginning, he kind of got me upset, but now I do understand that he really, really was teaching me so much about life, to look at the concept of where people are, and to be able to love people even when they're not, you know, nice and neat and wonderful and fantastic. And so basically he taught me to be able to share in areas that maybe sometimes I did have a hard time sharing. And I share that with you because I want to talk about what I call this energy and how to share it. Because so many of us have a tendency when it comes to loving or connecting to other people, we kind of do everything backwards. I get a kick out of that. So I'm going to do something today, if you don't mind. I'm going to divide you up into 5 parts. You don't mind me dividing you up, I'm sure. But in 5 parts, I'm going to divide you up into. As human beings and as people, we are physical creatures, emotional creatures, intellectual creatures, spiritual creatures, and also basically social creatures. Now, most of us, when it comes to any type of relationship or connection, we get very much caught up in the external, get caught up in image. Even when it comes to other individuals and people, we very much look at the outside. We never, sometimes don't take time to look at the inside. I remember a gentleman coming to me one day and saying this to me. He said, "Vince, I took a vow when I got married to be married, till death do us part." But I said something to him. I said, death has some very interesting names. If your relationship died emotionally, it's died spiritually, the only part that hasn't died is the physical. So instead of committing murder, I basically would advise you to take a look at that because death has many faces. And so the same thing as regards our journey in life, if we only base things on the physical or the external, things are going to change. And basically the relationship will die. Because if it's only based on the physical, and physical attraction is normal, as I mentioned in an earlier lecture, it's a normal process. But the bottom line is, it's got to be deeper and much more powerful. And that's why I divide these parts up, because I really believe that good, healthy relationships in any area of life begin on a social level, progress to a spiritual level, are connected on an intellectual level, are shared on an emotional level, and then basically are also bonded on a physical level. I'm sorry, but I got physical as number 5 and not number 1. Now, I know that goes against a lot of stuff we're taught in our society because, basically we figure, well, I got to get caught up on all this craziness, all this insanity of the physical, because basically we base a lot of relationships based around sex. Sex is not a relationship. It's a physical act. You can have sex with someone and never have a relationship. It's just simply a physical act. A true relationship takes time, takes commitment, takes growth. But many of us have a tendency when it comes to relationships, so many times in all areas of our life, we forget what the process is supposed to be. I've always taught this, that most of us, when we get involved in anything, be it a relationship, be it a relationship with a job, be it a relationship in any situation in life, the early stages are usually in that stage called fantasy. And fantasy is wonderful. But fantasy basically is a place where attraction is around, things to that effect. And eventually, over a period of time, we move into reality. And reality changes things in life. And then we move into adjustment. Everything in life is about adjustment. And then from adjustment comes commitment. Notice I have commitment as number 4 too. Everything in life is a process. Nothing is this magical thing that happens. You want magic, go to Disneyland. But basically, magic is something that we have in the movies. I always get a kick out of it because my wife tells me sometimes I'm a Hallmark junkie. But I love Hallmark movies because, within the first 3 minutes, I can tell you exactly how it's going to end. And every movie is the same. But again, in every movie, you have to have a tragedy, then you have the ending. And so the concept is, it's just like life. Life has ups, it has downs. Relationships have ups, they have downs. Things we do in life. And so no matter what we do, even when it comes to anything in life, for example, let me show you another basic thing. I've had the privilege and the honor of performing hundreds of marriages in my life. And I'm still doing them some today because I still have my license. And so basically, every time I perform a marriage, and just visualize this, I have a young couple standing in front of me, and they say, "I promise to love you the way I love you today to the day I die." I have to shoot them before they leave the altar. The minute they turn around and walk down the aisle, the relationship has already changed. And then the invaders arrive. They're called children, by the way. And it changes again. Everything in life into the reality stage keeps a constant process of change. And so in building good, healthy relationships, we start on a social level. And sometimes we kind of lost track of this. The social level means just getting to know people, spending time with them, going slow, relaxing. As I said to Carol earlier, just a little bit at a time. It's a process we have to go through. It's something very slowly and very gradually. It's called friendship. Years ago, I know I'm old, but years ago, they had something called group dating. Group dating meant a bunch of people got together, they went out, they went dancing, they had a good time, and nobody belonged to anybody else. And at the end of the night, they said goodnight and they went home. There were no contracts, no deals, and basically everybody went to their own house. They had fun, they enjoyed life. So socialization is a big part of building relationships. Even when it comes to moving into a new position on a job, it takes time to meet people, to connect, to find out what you're supposed to be doing. There's no magic formula. And so a little bit at a time, we have to open ourselves up. We have to learn new things. If I go in with a cocky attitude on a new job, like I know it all, it's not going to work. So I got to be humble enough to be able to ask for guidance, to ask for direction. And so socialization is a big part of life. Thomas Merton said this a long time ago. He said, no one is an island. No one stands alone. Each of us is interconnected to one another. And so good, healthy relationships over a period of time, some of the people, not all of them, will move to another level of relationship with you. But it will happen naturally. It will happen in God's time, not in our time. And that's where we have to learn to let go of control. Because trying to control the relationship will kill it. And so over a period of time, it'll move to a spiritual level. I'll begin to feel more comfortable. I'll begin to feel safer. I'll begin to be around people. I'll begin to build a different set of relationships with. Some of them will stay in one area, but others will move to a new area of my life. And so now I'm beginning to build people in my life I feel more comfortable with. Over a period of time, even that will change. And I can begin to look at things intellectually. Now, this can be a very dangerous point in a relationship. I call it analyzation intellectualism, because it means what happens over a period of time, even though things are moving slowly, I'm learning about another person. I have a tendency then to be you got to be careful at this stage. I get very much caught up in expectations. I get very much caught up in control again. I want things to be what I want them to be, and I always get a kick out of adult children of alcoholics and codependents. We have a tendency when it comes to relationships, we have a list. It's called a criteria list. In order for you to be in a relationship with me, you must fit the following criteria. Of course, the criteria is impossible. So therefore, you got an out. If they screw one thing up, you're done. It's control again. And so we're very careful on intellectual level, even when it comes to recovery or anything else. Many of us come into recovery intellectually, but intellectual recovery is only one form of recovery. Eventually, we have to move into a deeper level. Everything is a process. It works slowly, gradually. There's that interconnection we have with one another. And then over a period of time, things will then move to another level of relationships. They'll move to the emotional level. People I can feel comfortable with, I can share my feelings with. People I can become more vulnerable with. People I can express things with. Over a period of time, I move to a different level of a relationship. See, what I'm looking at is, I'm saying it in a short period of time today, but the process of building good, healthy relationships could take a long period of time because people really have to get to know each other. Also have to be able to understand one another, to be able to interact with each other. And that means everything in life has a growth process to it. Things are always in process of growing, of changing, of learning, of experiencing new things and going in new directions. It's all normal. And so the slower, the better. I understand now what my sponsor in OA used to say to me all the time. Richard, he used to say, you take recovery events a little bit at a time. And he said, remember, progress is what's important. Stay away from perfection. Perfection will kill. So you're not going to find the perfect person to be in a relationship with. You're going to find out that everybody has stuff. Congratulations. Isn't it wonderful? Some of us, I always joke, I say some of us have a suitcase full of stuff. Some have a steamer trunk. And some of us come with a moving van. What can I tell you? But it's stuff. It means we're part of who we are. One of the strongest recommendations I make is that you get into some counseling and get some therapy prior to getting into a relationship. I'm not talking about heavy therapy either. I'm talking about getting to know one another. Look at the personality traits of each other. My wife and I talk about this a lot. We're totally different. We're opposites. And I'm glad we are, because sometimes it's better. There are times I found out that opposites attract, so we can learn from each other and grow from each other. And that's what's important. And so I realize over and over again that sometimes I'm a little bit too much out there, and I've learned maybe I need to pull back a little bit. And my wife is very private, and so I have a tendency we have to be able to balance things out together. And that's good. Because I realize over and over again, all of us come from different backgrounds. All of us are interconnected to each other. And the most important thing in a relationship, why do people come into our life? They come into our life to be our teacher. They come into our life so we can learn from them and grow from them. Doesn't mean we have to agree with them all the time or be connected with them all the time. We have to realize the fact that they are part of our journey. What lessons am I learning from my relationships, not only with a human being or a person, but also lessons I'm learning from other relationships, such as jobs, such as my children. Even your children come into your life to be your teachers. Sometimes it may aggravate the hell out of you, and that's okay too. It's all part of it. So sometimes we have to get into conflict. Conflict is part of a relationship. And so as a result, we go through a lot of different changes at very different times in the course of our journey in life. And that's okay, because I really feel very strongly that a little bit at a time and basic at a time, relationships have to grow and be developed. And that's why developing healthy relationships with others is really a lifetime work. It's a process. You know, I never forget, and I always love telling this story. It's one of my favorite relationship stories. Some of you have heard me tell it before. But growing up as a young kid in the 1940s, I grew up in Camden. And we had this couple that lived on our street. You know, I got to tell you their names. Don't ask me what they mean, please. We get into these Italian names. Anyway, his name was Senegal, and her name was Semejanad. So Senegal and Semejanad, to me, were the ultimate couple. You got to visualize this. As kids, we used to get a big kick out of this. We used to call it get ready for the show. Friday was trash day. So every Friday, Senegal would take his little red wagon, go around the streets. Now you got to remember, Senegal probably weighed about 115 pounds soaking wet. Little guy. He'd go down the street with his wagon, pick up his treasures, and then he'd bring them home and carry them into the house. This is the part we used to like. About 2 minutes later, you hear a scream from inside the house, and both Senegal and his treasures will come out of the house. But a very patient man, he picked them up, put them back in, they come back out, put them back in, they come back out. But he knew that she would eventually get tired. Then after a period of time, him and his treasures would stay in the house. I used to love watching them. They sit on the step at night. Back in those days, we did a lot of sitting on the step outside. They sit on the step at night, and you got to realize, Senegal was a small gentleman, and Semejanad probably weighed close to 300 pounds. The two of them would sit together on the step, hold hands, and you could tell just by being around them how much they really loved each other. You could feel the energy in the two of them. They didn't have to say a word. You could feel the energy. You could feel the connectiveness. Sure, they may have went through a lot of conflict and stuff to that effect, but they truly were two people who had a sense of love for one another. What I have found over the years, that basically People really share their love. They share their connectiveness, not so much by what they say, but by the way in which they interact and connect with others. You know as well as I, you've been around people who are very negative, and as a result, you don't want to be around them. You've been around people that are very positive, and you enjoy being around them. And so the bottom line is you have to realize over a period of time that you literally have to be able to feel the energy. And that's why that last stage, the physical stage, is also an interconnection stage. The physical connection to another human being will take place over a period of time. But when I talk about a physical connection, I'm talking about something different than just physical activity or physical sex. I'm talking about intimacy. It's a big difference between sex and intimacy. Intimacy is a bonding, it's a connection. It means that no matter where you are, you're interconnected with other human beings. You are part of them and they are part of you. You could be miles away and still be interconnected. There's something very spiritual about intimacy. Many of you know you may have a very close friend who may live in another state somewhere. Maybe you only see them, via something like this or by phone, or maybe once or twice a year you get to see them. There's an interconnection in that. But no matter what happens, you know they're there and you know you have their support and you know they are part of your journey. That's why I've said a long time ago, the two individuals that truly understand relationships are little children and pets. They truly understand relationships. Pets do not hear a word that you say, neither do children. If you raise them, you know what I mean. But the bottom line is they can feel the energy coming out of you. They can feel the fear. They can feel things that are going on. They can feel the love. And I truly believe that if a person truly is a lover and truly has this energy of love, then literally no matter who you meet, no matter where you meet them, that energy comes out of you. It means that you have a positive outlook on what you're doing in life. It doesn't have to mean you have to be super intellectual or anything to that effect. It just means that you interconnect with people. You are part of one another. And that's why real, true, beautiful relationships are about the concept of intimacy. But I'll share something with you. If we had a diagram, I could do it, but I'll try to visualize it for you. When it comes to relationships, one of the things you have to try to understand is that each one of us is an individual. Each one of us is unique. And therefore, in a relationship, you don't give up who you are. You don't give up your uniqueness. And neither does the other person. So if two people truly are unique, I want you to visualize two people in a relationship. And I will hold my hands up and notice them leaning towards each other this way. It's called the A-shaped relationship. That means they're totally dependent on one another. If one falls, the other one falls. The domino theory. The other one is that people have their backs to one another. They're touching one another. They have their backs to each other, but there's no eye contact. There's no intimacy. We call that a functional relationship, which means they're going through the motions, they're functioning, they get their jobs done. And unfortunately, so many times in relationships, we don't truly work on them. They can become these types of relationships. A good, healthy relationships are people, and visualize people at far ends of the room. And so basically, two people separated. Each person is a total entity to themselves, so is the other person. They have their support systems, people around them. They can choose to spend time together, and they can choose not to. And even though they're not together, they're still together. Let me try to explain that. It means that you can be miles away from people. And I share this a lot because my wife right now, I'm in the office. I presume she's probably home or someplace. Who knows where she is? It's not important. but I still feel bonded and connected to her because she is part of my journey. We're connected to each other. And that's because I can feel the energy and be connected to the energy. So in good, healthy relationships, just like children and pets, you can feel the energy coming from one another. And so the most important things about a relationship, even more powerful than love, is safety. To feel safe and to feel comfortable in the relationship. If you feel safe and feel comfortable, you build a level of trust, then you have love. Because what is love? Love is a bonding between people. Love is this energy where people do feel safe, they feel comfortable, they feel this bond of trust, they build an energy of love. I've experienced this so many times, even when I went to different parishes, when I worked in the prison system, and even here at Starting Point a lot of times. Back in the beginning, you have to feel the energy, feel the strength that comes from it. And I'll give you an example. In the early days of Starting Point, and I got to see a photograph of the early buildings back then. We didn't have a lot. The thing we did have, a lot of energy, a lot of love, a lot of caring. I remember Marty across the street, who was a beer distributor, who was in the AA program for a long period of time. He would come over every day right around 12 o'clock, and he'd bring the guys sandwiches. And he'd hand them out to the guys. These guys were living at our house. He would say, "Here, this is a present from me to you." Then he would sit with them for almost an hour and talk about recovery and talk about different types of things. He was always giving. Another beautiful gentleman who was a lawyer in Center City, a gentleman that started the Lawyers Association for Recovery in Center City, would come down to the house, sit with the guys. And he was sitting primarily with street people. And you know what he came down there for? He came down to make sure he remembered where he came from. And he sat down there and talked with people, shared with people, spent time. I still can remember different people that came through Starting Point. One of them is a couple of our counselors, Alice, Teresa, different people that came from the bottom and came up to the top. And basically never really came up to the top because they didn't want to be on the top. Very humble, very loving people who cared for people around them and cared for the ones nobody else wanted to care about. It's that simple little energy of love. That's why we used to call Alice, when she was here, St. Alice, because she really was a gem. She really was. I mean, I'll never forget one day I said to her, she had a client, and I just out of curiosity, how much are you charging that client? She said 45 cents a session, because we always had this philosophy to charge something. And the poor lady was down and out, so the lady would come with her 45 cents every week to see Alice. And Alice put her arm around her, hugged her, thanked her for being there. I used to love her for that, because she would thank the client for being there, because they weren't clients to her. They were people. They were connected. These are my teachers, the people I've learned so much from over the years, from Jack, from different people over the journey, and people that I basically met in these different rooms, people I've met in so many different places, some of the greatest teachers of all. You never know where it's going to come from, to be interconnected. And that's why to truly build a love relationship with others is be yourself. Be a true, authentic person within your own self. You're going to have your bad days. Come on. You're going to have days when you want to yell and scream at everybody. You're going to have days when you want to be happy with everybody. You're going to have ups. You're going to have downs. But just be you and be open. And realize the fact that as people come into your life and the journey comes into your life, have a sense of patience. Patience is a beautiful thing. And realize the fact that we're going to meet different types of people in the course of our journey. And I'm glad. I'm so glad that we're all different. I'm all glad that we're connected to one another. I'm so glad about all the people that have interacted in my life. And I see some beautiful people on here. I see people from Texas, people from California, people from all different parts of the country. Doesn't make a difference. We're bonded. We're connected to one another. We're part of each other. Age doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make any difference. Because I realize today that we can be connected to each other no matter where we are, no matter what's going on in the process of it. And that's an important part of what this journey really is all about. So when I talk about developing healthy relationships with others, what I'm actually saying is each one of us is a unique, special, wonderful, fantastic person. God gave us deep inside the energy, the spirit of God's love. It flows through our veins, it flows through our being and through our spirit, through every part of us as a person. Take your time, go slow, relax. And as you are able just to be yourself and to share, you'll open the door to so many different people in different directions. And that's what's important. But you have to be able to have a sense of humility, a sense of openness, a sense of learning. You have to be open to the new journeys in life. And age doesn't make a difference. I've seen people have this powerful energy at a very young age. I'm thinking of somebody right now, a very special person who's part of us here at Starting Point, who came here, as an intern, who did some growing, but she has a very gentle, beautiful spirit about her. She has a very active spirit about her. And I love her. She's fantastic. She's still a youngster as far as I'm concerned, but the bottom line is she has that spirit. She cares about people. And that's what's important. It's that kind of energy that means so much, interconnected with individuals and people. And so I truly believe deep down inside that we have these components to us. We have to work on developing all these components because they're all part of our journey. And so when I share the concept of loving others, being connected to others, every other is another person who's come into our journey, come into our life to be a teacher to us. We have so many beautiful teachers. It's the simplicity, it's the humility, it's the beauty of love. I look back, I remember the first 12-step meeting I went to when Morgan knocked on the door at the rectory. And Morgan just said to me, "Take a ride with me, Vince." Took me to an Al-Anon meeting in 1969. I realized Morgan really loved me. He shared the gift of his love with me. I realized that today. Norm Duffy, the mustard seed in Philly, all the little things, the people here and there. I could mention name after name after name after name of people that were truly lovers in my life, that were connected to me in my life. And to realize the fact that were they human? Yes, thank God. Were they in struggles a lot of times? Yes, thank God. But I've learned over the years, nothing wrong with struggle. From struggle comes growth. From struggle comes love. It's a powerful energy. And remember, don't look at tomorrow, look at today. Because even good, healthy relationships are only for one day. Remember that. Everything in life is only for one day. Hopefully tomorrow we'll recommit to another day. That's all we can do. But we don't know about tomorrow. So we keep it simple. Have positive energy to people around you, even the ones that aggravate you. They're necessary in life. And they aggravate you because they're trying to teach you patience and tolerance, how to be able to handle things and deal with things. And many of you know what that's really all about. It's all part of it. It's all part of our learning process. And yet they're also teachers. Everyone's a teacher in life. And that's really what the whole process is about. So what I want to do basically is I want to share a prayer with you. Hopefully it will help you to look at relationships from a positive point of view and to realize that the ultimate relationship is yours. Work on yourself, but be a lover. Treat people with respect and honor. Give them the gift of your love. And if you do that, it'll come back to you 100-fold. I truly believe that today, and I really am connected with that today, with a lot of gratitude and with a lot of love. So let us pray. God, we come before you as your family. We come before you in gratitude. We come before you in humility. But above all, we come before you in love. You are our greatest teacher. You send so many messengers into our life, so many beautiful people to try to teach us this gift that we have, that we share the gift of love with them. And even at times, Lord, when it's hard, teach us to realize that we need each other. We are connected to one another. We are bonded to each other. Help us to understand that life is to be shared. Everything we do in life is to be shared. For we are family. We are part of one another. I ask you to help us not to walk this journey of life alone. Teach us not to always look for answers, but just to be open to the teachings, experiences, the things we go through in life. And also realize that so many times in the course of our journey, we may find out that it's going to be hard, it'll be tough. But if I keep you alongside of me and you work with us, I know that you will be a guide and a strength to me in all that I do. So we pray that you may be with us, God, guide us, be with us, but above all, help us. If we just ask for your help, we know you will send teachers into our life. And so the spirit of love, the spirit of togetherness, the spirit of interconnectedness that we have to one another, we come here in gratitude and we say thank you. Thank you, God, for the great teacher you are to each and every one of us. And we ask this in your name. Amen. Now I'm going to ask all of you, if you don't mind, unmute yourself, and we'll say the serenity, the we version of the serenity prayer together.
What will you do?
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.